you're watching Fugitive Red Eye, and yeah, you read the title, so you already know this is going to be a fucking hot button issue, but I kind of just been tempted to talk about it for a while, and I in no way plan to make this super political, because that's just not what I'm about. But ultimately, this may piss some people off, and that's okay if you don't agree with me. But this shouldn't have been a political issue in the first place. It's been made into one. Absolutely it has. And I didn't want to make this video initially. But I do now simply because there's been several channels that I watch specifically for entertainment purposes. I watch these channels for, like, anime reviews and shit. And I'm not going to name names because I'm not about that drama. But these channels came out and they said some things that were very heavily, like, opinionated about this. Opinions I don't agree with. They're supporting a lot of this shit going on, and I don't. I will never support destroying cities and, like, setting shit on fire and stealing shit. No, I'm just not going to support that shit. And let me start off by saying that I think that pretty much everybody was on board with, the death of George Floyd was not good. It was bullshit. It was murder. Everyone was on board with that at first. Everyone agreed. But then you have all these people that have made it not about that anymore. They've made it about destruction, property damage, in some cases even murder. I know of at least 3 people who have been killed from this. I don't remember the poor girl's name. It was Italia something. I don't remember her last name, and I apologize for that. Then there was David Dorn, who was like a 77-year-old retired police veteran who was working security at this pawn shop, got shot, and just left to die and fucking bleed out like a fish out of water on the sidewalk while these fucking bastards just sat and filmed it. I'm never gonna fucking support that. And here's the thing. David Dorn, Dave Patrick Underwood, another guy who was working security and got shot by rioters. These guys were black, as was this girl Italia. So if these people really think that fucking black lives are important, why are they fucking taking them? Again, if these had stayed as peaceful protests, I may not have agreed with it because I don't think this is a race issue, but if you do, that's fine. You think this is a race issue, then fine. It is your constitutional right to peacefully protest. But when you start breaking shit, throwing bricks, stealing vodka bottles like fucking some big influencers on the site, you know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to name names even though everyone knows who it is. When you have old men getting shot over a fucking TV and left to bleed out on the goddamn sidewalk while people stand there and film, I'm not going to support that shit. I don't give a shit what cause you're standing for anymore. Okay? I think that some people are definitely well-intentioned with this. And I do think that the channels that I saw post about this were well-intentioned. Even though they're supporting this, and I can't. I can't fucking support this. I will never support this. This is fucking ridiculous. I think they were well-intentioned. I did unsubscribe from a couple of them, I'm not gonna lie. And that's not because I just disagreed with them, but there was one who straight up said that they're going to use the funds from their next videos in order to donate to causes for stuff like this, and I will not support that. If people choose to, that's on them, that's fine. I still enjoy the content, and I may check back in a year or two after this has all died down. Because I can separate art from artist, but for the time being, I'm not going to support that. For channels specifically funding shit that I don't agree with funding. I'm not going to do it. And I'm not going to watch them with adblock either, because that feels kind of like stealing. Even though I do use adblock on some sites, I'm not going to do it there. So I'm just not going to watch it. Plain and simple. So yeah. This is all ridiculous. Okay? I think that police brutality is an issue that could be discussed. Do I think it's blown out of proportion? Fuck yes, I do. I think people exaggerate the shit out of it. Second off, I don't think it's strictly a race issue. All of the stats I have seen, which admittedly may not be perfect, and you may have seen other statistics that convince you otherwise, have shown me that white people get killed just as much, if not more so, than black people by police. But whether or not that's the case doesn't matter. I don't care if it's a racial issue. The point is, it stops mattering what the fuck it's about when you start destroying shit and hurting people, stealing shit, killing people. George Floyd was one man. I can already name at least 3 deaths that I've seen because of rioters. That's already triple George Floyd. That said, that's probably not even all of them. I haven't been keeping up with everything because, frankly, every time I just look at this, it just makes me angry. And, like I said, if these had stayed peaceful protests, I would have no problem with it. I may not have agreed with all the rhetoric, But I do think it's an issue that could be talked about. And I do think that everyone's in their right to peacefully protest. That's fine. But it stopped being peaceful protests as soon as the first brick was thrown, as soon as the first building was burned. And it certainly stopped being peaceful as soon as David Dorn, Dave Patrick Underwood, and that Italian woman whose name I apologize for not remembering, I will look into that later, were taken. Their lives were taken. This is ridiculous. I do not stand for this. I don't care where you stand on these issues. You cannot destroy shit. You cannot hurt people. That's not how it works. You want to make changes? Speak your voice. Vote if you want. Fucking protest. Sure. Don't riot. Don't break shit. Don't hurt people. Although at this point I wouldn't even recommend going out to peaceably protest because, number one, I think your safety is probably a concern now because of all the rioters. Number two, they've got military coming out and shit like that, so who's going to be able to distinguish between peaceful and non-peaceful, so maybe you're best staying at home to be safe. I mean, I'm not going to stop you if you go out there. That's still your right to peacefully protest, but you're going to be lumped in with some other people. And you may be hurt by those people, or you may be caught in the crossfire of stuff happening to those people. So I wouldn't advise it, but that's still on you. If you want to do that, I still think it's your right to do so, even if I don't think it's a good idea at this particular moment in time. Now, like I said, I don't like to talk politics on this channel. But I've seen people on both sides of the political spectrum condemning this. I've talked to friends about this. Friends who I disagree with on the fact whether or not this is a racial issue. I've had very calm discussions with friends on a different side than I am. And they don't support the rioting or the looting or the violence either. They support the protests, which I would too if they just stayed peaceful. Even if I don't agree with them, because that's their right. Do I think that George Floyd needed justice? Sure. Do I think upgrading the charges right now because of these riots is going to solve anything? No. Because it's going to be harder to make second-degree murder stick than it will third. Because they have to be able to show some sort of intent with second-degree murder. And, frankly, you can't show that. You can't prove that. Whether or not it was there or not, you can't prove it. So, if they're able to, sure. Maybe they can, well, maybe it wasn't intent. They have to be able to show that he was committing some other felony. Maybe they'll be able to prove that. And maybe this guy will get second-degree murder. Here's what I don't want. I don't want him to get railroaded and not get a fair trial. Even though I think this guy was a piece of shit scumbag asshole who deserves to go to jail, I will never be in support of someone not getting a fair trial. Because that's a fucking slippery-ass slope as it is. Fair trials are one of the most important things in the U.S. Constitution. And I'm not going to go on a whole spiel about that, but I very much believe in due process no matter who it is. What side of the political spectrum they're on, what crimes they commit, I am much for a fair trial. But yeah, if you're in support of the peaceful protesters, that's fine. Hell, if you support the riots, I'm not going to question your logic. Well, I will question your logic, but I'm not going to tell you you're wrong because I'm not the end-all be-all. I will say, if you're actively participating in these riots and breaking shit, you are breaking the law and you are in the wrong. I will say that. Destroying shit and hurting people never solves anything. Remember the words of Mahatma Gandhi? An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Remember Martin Luther King Jr. saying how he didn't want his protests to devolve into riots? Who was more effective, Martin Luther King Jr. or Malcolm X? You know what I mean? It just goes to show nonviolence can go a hell of a long way. Violence really doesn't. Anyway, if you disagree with me on this, that's fine, I suppose. Like I said, you may disagree with me on certain issues with that. That's totally fine. I don't consider myself the end-all be-all of opinions, and in fact I think this is a complicated and delicate issue. But I will never agree with destroying cities. Can't be allowed. Anyway, that's enough of this. Hope this wasn't too heated for you. But this has been Fugitive Red Eye, and I'm going to go back to being a fun distraction instead of someone who actively talks about this shit. Again, I try not to talk about this shit on my channel. But because there were so many other channels that I watched that were talking about this and expressing opinions that I didn't agree with and saying, oh, it's our responsibility if we have a platform, well, fine. Fine, you know what? Here I am on my platform. A small platform. I'll give you that. And I don't agree with what they said. That said, if you are in support... That said, if you disagree with me, that's fine. I have no ill will towards you as long as you're not out there causing damage. Anyway, this has been Fugitive Red Eye. Have a good one.